Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. I'm your host, Nipasa. And before we head on with today's discussion and request our guests to join us, I have this very important disclaimer, and that is by watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not legal advice. Use of information is at your own risk. So, folks out there, once again, a very warm welcome to Immigration Talk Show, and I'm really happy to be here. So, yes, this is where we break down, all the immigration trends, the latest ones, especially the policies and opportunities with the experts who know them best. And today, we are going to dive into this very interesting topic, EB3 PERM and L1A in 2025. And these are two critical pathways that, could shape the future of skilled workers out there, even multinational executives and aspiring professionals looking to build their career in the United States. So, to tackle this hot topic, we have two legal heavyweights in the House who are going to join us shortly. First up, we are going to have Rob Melvin, a 26-year veteran in the legal field and a licensed attorney by the Texas Supreme Court. Rob's career has spanned the courtroom, diplomacy, and high stakes immigration cases. He served as a Foreign Service Officer of the United States Department of State, adjudicating over 9,000 visas, managing security for top diplomats like Hillary Clinton and Mike Pompeo, and mastering the complexities of employment and investment based immigration. And joining him is none other than Philip Rodriguez, uh, an immigration powerhouse in his own right, a partner at Doss and Rodriguez PLLC. Philip has 13 years of experience navigating, everything from family-based petitions to removal defense. Armed with a Juris Doctor from St. Mary's University, he delivers customized legal strategies that change lives. So, without further ado, Rob and Philip, welcome to the show once again, and it's really great to have you with us today.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for having us, and thanks for that great intro.
Yeah, thank you, Napas. It's a pleasure to be here, and hopefully we'll have some useful information for your viewers today.
I'm already looking forward. So, as you already know the topic of discussion for today, EB3 PERM and L1A in 2025. So, what can folks out there, look for this year?
Yeah, I mean, the EB3 PERM is kind of a similar unfortunate circumstance as far as the retrogression goes. The For India, it's currently at a 3-year delay in the availability of the visas and in the ability to change status. However, it can be used in conjunction with some other statuses that you may have in country, if as long as you have an employer that's willing to kind of go the distance with you. So we'll kind of develop that later, but they are very retrogressed for India. So that's the unfortunate news. But we will talk about how, in conjunction with maybe some H-1B status and some STEM OPT and other statuses, you can have the EB3 PERM working in the background and still have an ability to be here in the U.S. While the EB3 PERM whole process is pending. And we'll talk about some of the delays. The biggest delay really is besides the retrogression is with the Department of Labor and their labor certification process right now. So again, we can discuss that in more detail later if you want, but they're very far behind, and it's a critical component of this particular visa category.
Yeah. And then don't forget about the L1A visa, which we're going to get into today, which is also another way, a viable way for multinational managers and executives to obtain a visa to come to the U.S. Now, it's a little different in that it's a non-immigrant visa, but we're going to get into it a little bit later. today about how you can apply, or how you can, that can lead into a possible immigrant visa permanent resident route. But those two options, they're still very viable. As Rob has just discussed, EB3 PERM for India, it's a little bit bigger hill to climb, but we'll be happy to get into that as we go on.
Absolutely, and we hear a lot of changes. So, what's changed? I mean, what is changing this year? 2025 in for EB3 and L1A, and also, how can applicants be prepared for this change, and maybe what can they really do to maximize their chances of success? In short,
Well,
just
one
just for now.
the short summation is going to be higher scrutiny, which is kind of ironic because they are so far behind. USCIS is so far behind in keeping up with their workload. Um, Yet at the same time, they're going to have much more extensive documentation and detailed analysis requirements. So that's going to take them that much longer to adjudicate cases or send out RFEs for more information. But the biggest takeaway I would say is submit a super complete package. There's no more, just one or two liner, descriptions of jobs. Everything has to be laid out in extensive detail, and that includes like the financial capabilities of the companies involved, both the foreign and the domestic company, or the non-U.S. and the U.S. company. They are very much going to scrutinize the financials of those companies, it's particularly in the L1A arena, but then also in the EB3 PERM ability, basically to pay for the employee that they're petitioning. So
Right,
higher
that's what I hear.
scrutiny.
I mean, it's sorry for interrupting.
Oh, you did it. Higher scrutiny, extremely more detail.
That's what I hear. That's what I hear. I mean, they say like it's going to be like a 2 to 3 years to 5 years or even more. So you need to have a real explanation of what is your job description really about. What are you going to do in the next 3 years or 5 years, right? So we will definitely get into all those details. Folks out there, stay with us. We are streaming live right now on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and on X. Please feel free to join us by participating, and that you can do by commenting. And also another good thing is that you can call us up in case you want to ask the questions yourself to the attorneys who are present here, Rob and Philip. So what you need to do is call us on this number for 435 436. Sorry, if we can have the number, please. So the access code is 425 436 6335, and the access code is 988888. So you can note down this number and call us up. The number, once again, I repeat, is 425 436 6335, and the access code is 988888. Please feel free to join us. And yes, so I think my next question will go out to Philip. So Philip, if you can tell us, the September 2024 visa bulletin, indicated, a significant retrogression in the EB3 category. So priority dates moving back by a year for several regions. And how do you think is this going to affect applicants from countries like India? And what are the implications for those countries who are currently, I mean, for those people who are currently in the process?
Sure. Well, that's the bad news that Rob was referring to a moment ago. Unfortunately, with the retrogression, the bottom line up front is, in our opinion, for India, applicants from India are looking at a 12 to 12 and a half year wait for EB3 visas. So not good news. Um, I think that's kind of what we're seeing pretty much across the board with these employment-based visas. Now there's been a much higher demand um, for these types of visas. It's kind of a wait and see. But unfortunately, when it comes to India, specifically to India, it's a long wait right now.
It is, and I think for most of the categories for India is bad. I mean, I think EB2 is where they're not even accepted anymore, right?
Yeah,
Right.
there's one particular category, and we're going to talk a little bit later when we get to, you know, further down the list of questions that you all have for us. But the EB1C, which is basically the immigrant visa route, analogous to the L1A, and can be used in conjunction with the L1A. As a multinational executive or manager. And that one is only 3 years retrogressed, essentially more or less 3 years retrogressed. So used in conjunction with an L1A, a proper L1A that's approved, really that is, in my opinion, the quickest route. It may be the quickest route for India overall.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Thank
echo
you.
that.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah. It essentially what it comes down to is it's time to start looking at other options. It's time to be creative in the avenues of pursuit for any applicants from India, any applicants from China, anyone that has these extremely long wait times. It's essentially time to get creative and start thinking about other ways that, of course, that they qualify for, and that would allow them to come to the U.S. to participate with an employer. The L1A, it's multinational managers and executives. Like Rob mentioned, that's one way to get someone into the U.S. to do their job, to help grow, help facilitate international growth, and seamless operations for whatever company they're with. And
Okay.
the L1A can lead to permanent residency in the U.S.
Right.
through
When you use it,
yeah,
a double play basically.
right.
L1A and EB1C used in
Exactly.
conjunction. So then in that case, you'd be looking at about a 2 year Department of Labor process,
Mm-hmm.
and then the 3 year retrogression. So, which is good because on your L1A you'll still have 7 year, a 7 year limit to be in that status. So you could complete it time, but you have to have the relationship with the companies, that are willing to go the distance with you, if you will.
Right. Right. Well, that conjunction sounds interesting. We would love to know more about that. But also, just another thought, with I mean, Trump hitting the office right now, and it's just been about 2 weeks. Do you think the relations that he's having with these countries, which are changing, by the way, with the United States, are going to affect these categories of visas by any chance?
Go ahead. I have my opinions. I think that to the extent that they are STEM related companies and fields, he's going to have a lot of people putting pressure around him, his inner circle, if you will, in order to draw more, hopefully, from overseas. Quite frankly, I think we just have a lack of talent within the United States. It sounds strange coming from a U.S. citizen, but the more talent that I see, and I think we see in our practice, in the STEM type related fields, is all from overseas. We have qualified people here in the United States, but I just don't think we have enough to fulfill the very ambitious goals of this president, for the short and long term, over his, which will be his last, time in office. He really wants to accomplish a lot, and I think that with his relationships with the companies, he's a businessman. He's going to want to see exponential business growth within the U.S., and the only way to have that is to have good talent. So, if we don't have that talent pool, I don't see how you can get around it. We need folks from overseas, and especially from countries like India that are extremely intelligent, extremely hardworking, capable and qualified for these kind of jobs.
Yeah,
Well, that's a
and
really nice point of view. Yeah, Philip, go ahead, please.
I was just going to add to that, and is that of course, the current president's policymakers, I'm sure, are thinking about um, what's going on that's making the news. How is that going to affect that talent pool that Rob is referring to? And they have to consider whether or not this is going to scare people away from wanting to come to the U.S. and bring their talent. We need to policymakers, again, I know they're taking this into account, and I just hope that we start seeing that we need to attract those types of workers. We need to bring them in. We don't necessarily want to, and that we don't want what's going on right now in the immigration landscape for irregular immigration. We don't necessarily want to see that affect our business and employment based immigration, because again, I'll reiterate what Rob said, and we can't say it enough. I mean, a lot of this international talent, they want to come to the U.S., and we need that talent.
And they're two different worlds. What like the mainstream media, and you watch these shows, and we're getting the calls. I mean, quite frankly, we're getting waves and waves, tsunamis, if you will, of inquiries and calls, and people very scared, very concerned, and quite frankly, just freaking out. Um, but it's two different worlds: the business world of immigration and the people that are being spotlighted in the mainstream media. They don't. One has like very little to nothing to do with the other. Um, I don't see even, you know, just like even deportations and stuff. Now, granted, if you were here in one status and it expired and you overstayed, well, you guess what? You just switched over to the mainstream news kind of scare tactics propaganda that's going on right now, the hysteria, if you will. Understandable, um, but that world does not touch the employment based visa categories at all. Um, and I mean, if you want to get into, there's allegations of xenophobia and that kind of thing. Um, Again, to the extent that's true, if it's true at all, it has more to do with irregular immigration than with qualified professionals coming in for these jobs for the L1As, the EB3 PERMs, the EB2 NIWs, the EB1Cs, all these categories that bring a drained brain into the United States. I still think there's going to be a high demand, and hopefully we'll see some change in the high availability with Congress now, because the new Trump has got a lot of sway with Congress. Everybody seems to be wanting to please him. So if his advisors are telling him, hey, we need these workers, then he is going to be working Congress, and having his confidants working in Congress to try to improve the situation.
Absolutely. Well, those were very well put thoughts and perspectives. Thank you so much for sharing them with us. And, it's somewhat similar to what Dung Habe wants to know. So I would like to take this up. First off, hi to Sneha, Dung, and also Ajay for joining us with your comments. We will take them up. But since it's Dung's comment is a little almost similar to what we are speaking right now. Plus, we are almost in the second week of February where the visa bulletin is going to be out for March very soon. So, do you have any thoughts on the visa bulletin progressing faster under Trump? He's asking.
Can I take that one?
It's tough to say. I mean, that's our hope. That's everyone's hope. But really, I don't know what I guess the true question is, what is what influence does Trump have on helping the visa bulletin progress a little further along? I mean, that's based on how USCIS is processing these applications. That's based on the visa numbers available. Sure, if Trump comes out and allows certain categories to either recapture visas from another time period, or somehow miraculously broadens the amount, increases the number of visas available. I don't know and my opinion is that I don't see much change to the visa bulletin um, with Trump in office, and that's not because it's Trump in office. It's and it to me, what I've seen in my experience, a new president doesn't necessarily have an effect on the visa bulletin timelines.
And,
Mhm.
and I would just add, to the extent they do, if they have any, it's not an immediate deal. So I know everybody really tracks these month to month, and because they have a vested interest, there's not going to be a 1 month significant jump. I don't think. If anything, it will be gradual,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully, what my hope personally is to see substantial improvement by the end of the year. You know, month to month, it can change a year or two or a couple of years, but I don't see, like, dramatic changes between each visa bulletin publication. I could be
So
wrong.
true. So true. Well, thank you for that. And thank you, Dung, for joining us. Tell us where you're from, and you can keep commenting. And we will take up more questions. But we were speaking about retrogression earlier, even for India. So maybe if you give out a few tips, maybe, or what steps can Indian applicants take to mitigate the effects of this retrogression?
Well, I mean, what we do with our clients is we try to look for alternate routes of status that they can, if they want to be in country, and which is mostly the case, right? They want to stay in country until a visa is available, so they can adjust status from within. That's usually the play that everybody wants to make. So what we do is we look for any, maximize any STEM OPT options that are available. If they have an employer and they're able to get into H-1B status, especially for the non-capped categories, the universities and schools and those types of deals, something where they can stay in status for an extended period of time. Those are lovely. And the L1A is another beautiful one because we don't have the prohibition on dual intent. So if they can maximize their 7 years, get in an L1A status, and maximize their 7 years, then they have just like they're getting closer to the finish line. So that's what our strategy is. We look for alternate viable routes for people to be able to maintain status while they are awaiting these lengthier processes, these lengthier categories for visas to become available.
All right. So my next question would go to Philip right now. And Philip, if you could tell us, especially that reports suggest that all available EB3 visas for fiscal year 2024 have been issued, rendering the category unavailable until the new fiscal year, which is this coming October. So how does the impact pending applications, and what should applicants anticipate as we move in fiscal year 2025?
Sure. Well, and that's a good question. I understand that's a major concern for a lot of people. Unfortunately, because the cap has been reached, there's going to be a pause. Those visas won't be processed up until the new visas commence for the next fiscal year, which begins on October 1st.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. And yes, ZQ also has a few questions. We will take them up, ZQ, if you don't mind waiting a bit. But coming back to our questions, also like this is another challenges which EB3 visa availability has given out, because the current challenges with EB3 is the availability. And what alternative immigration pathways might these applicants consider, to achieve their employment and residency goals in the United States?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's what Rob was referring to a moment ago.
Which one?
With our clients, we take a holistic approach. We consider every option available, and so as far as alternative immigration paths, you could look at something like the EB2 NIW. We've had a lot of success with those applications lately. You can also look at what Rob was referring to earlier, the EB1 visas. that's a much shorter wait. I think by our estimates, we were talking like a 3 year,
Mhm.
a 3 year wait for under the EB1 category. So those are two of the alternative paths that someone can consider. When they look at the EB3 PERM and look at this very long wait, and they think, well, what else is available? Those are two options that are available.
And I kind of misspoke earlier when I talked about labor certification in the context of the EB1. There's several different types of EB1s, and for I think 3 of the 4, there's no labor cert required. I'd have to go back and review. But that is important because that helps cut off, which is the other big hindrance in the EB3 category, is this whole labor certification process. So anytime you can get to a visa that avoids the labor certification process, you're gaining ground. And any type of alternate non-immigrant status that doesn't prohibit dual intention, those are great options, like the L1A.
Very interesting. Thank you so much. Because I'm sure, folks out there are just looking out for their options. Well, if it's not this, then what is the other way to be in the US, right? And from what news has it, most people, most immigrants, or people who are, on the verge of coming to America, they're kind of scared, as in like whether they should or they should not, at this point at least, to come to
Mhm.
America. So, what do you suggest?
I mean, go ahead.
Well,
Should they be scared?
as
I
we all,
mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
yes, Philip.
no, yeah, no, we understand the uncertainty and possibly a little bit of fear and anxiety, but generally speaking, for the most part, it's always best to apply as soon as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Regarding of when is the best time, the best time is now. Um, well, the best time was yesterday. The next best time is today.
He's not.
Uh,
Okay.
and that I will say is that can apply to almost 99% of our cases. Certainly, business employment based cases. I don't know if Rob has anything to add to that.
Well, and there's another thing too that we really don't talk. We kind of like silo our conversations, but they really shouldn't be. Like we're talking about employment based today. A lot of what
Mhm.
we encounter are young professionals, recently graduated from college, or just in the time of the beginning part of their professional life, right? Well, a lot of them, if they come over and they're single, oftentimes end up getting married. If they end up getting married to a U.S. citizen, that absolutely is the fastest path because those that category is always available, and you can do what we call a one step, which is a petition along with an adjustment of status. You can have your work permit in a matter of a few months. You can get your green card in a matter of a few months to a year. Um, so for this single crowd, if you will, I mean, often as their life develops while they're here in another category, they may end up changing over to a family-based immigration, which if the spouse is an American citizen or U.S. citizen, um, they're really fast-tracked, quite frankly.
Very nice. So, single folks out there, I think yes. So why not? So learn to fall in love with America and maybe an American too. Cool. So nice. Well, we have Dung who's come back. So I think we should quickly take his ones and sees here. Let's follow it up quickly. Do you think EB3 row will hit 2023 PDs by end of fiscal year? Currently at December 22, with a 14 plus day movement in 5 FBs. There's so many short forms in this with fiscal year and PD of 13 January 23. Greetings from UK, he says.
I'll, did we
Yeah,
catch it all? I actually didn't catch it all, so I was going to refer it to
yeah,
Rob.
that got pretty down into the weeds. I didn't.
Same here,
Is he talking?
because there are so many short forms he used, but okay, I could go slow. So, do
Yeah.
you think EB3 row will hit 2023 PDs by end of fiscal year?
Uh, from 23.
will hit 23 because it is currently at December 2022.
I hope so. Is all I can say. I mean,
Yes, I mean, yes, visa bulletin. We all hope for the best. We really hope that there are more movements faster and quicker. And I mean, statuses become current as soon as possible,
yeah,
priority dates. But we will just have to wait up. Yes. And actually, I would appeal to Dung to call us. You can call us up on this number, maybe connect with us. It'll be easier. So the question is
yeah,
more clearer, maybe. So the number is
yeah.
425-436-6335, and the access code when they ask for it is 988888. And yeah, please feel free to join us on call. All right, coming back to our questions, this is regarding L1A. So maybe I could ask Philip to answer this. Are there any recent or upcoming policy changes affecting the L1A visa category that applicants and employers should be aware of this year?
Yes, great question. The most significant change is going to be the revised Form I-129. It's significant because that's going to require or will require stricter documentation requirements. As Rob mentioned, the theme here going forward that we're going to see is more scrutiny, more scrutiny, more scrutiny. And the revised I-129 reflects that. They're asking for much more comprehensive information regarding the employee roles, detailed proof of control over the employee and their work responsibilities, and just an overall stricter criteria for executive and managerial roles. So I would say that to me, in my opinion, is the most significant change thus far, affecting the L1A visa category.
Thank you so much, Philip. And folks out there, whenever you are applying for any category, please make sure that you are using the latest forms, whichever category you are applying for, because there has been updates and, updates keep happening. So even the January 17 changes has occurred. So just keep all that in mind. And best of all, consult an expert, consult an attorney. Why not call Rob or Philip? Their details are scrolling on the screen as well. So control, if you can display them, please, it'll be great, so that folks
Yeah,
out there can note the numbers down.
I'm sorry.
Or
You,
yeah,
we've seen several forms change multiple times within 1 year. So it's
there you
I
go.
can't emphasize that enough or support your statement enough that like the day that you're shipping that file off overnight, you better make sure that form is good or it's going to get kicked back and it's just going to cost you more time, potentially more money, or a fight with USCIS over a premium processing fee refund. We've seen
Mhm.
those fights.
I mean,
And
has
then
it
on top
happened
of
that you sent something today and it changed maybe just that same day?
they usually give you, like a couple week or usually a couple month buffer.
Okay.
But I forget which one it was, but it was a very short time frame and was almost an immediate change this last year. So it's critical to make sure at least the day you're sending it in, that you go to USCIS's website. It's very easy to do. You just get your category and you go to the bottom and they have drop downs and it'll say current edition. And then it'll talk about we accept this edition until this period of time. After that period
Mhm.
of time, we will accept this new edition that was published rather on a date certain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can't stress
Right.
that enough, especially for those applicants who, makes me cringe to think about it. But those applicants that are trying to do this on their own, certain applications that don't require an employer, um, we see it all the time, that people try to do something on their own. They submit the wrong form. They submit a fee, an older fee rather than the updated fee, and then they come to us after the fact. And in some situations, that fee's gone, the form done. We have to redo everything all over again, and it just, as Rob mentioned, it delays the process. It's an
Definitely.
unnecessary expenditure of time and resources. So it's always best always best to use an immigration attorney.
And
Absolutely.
if you're talking like forms of like an extension of stay or change of status, it can be a deal killer.
Mhm.
Because if you're filing those at the last minute, but you're using the wrong form, and it gets there, by the time you find out you used the wrong form, you may have passed your exit date, uh, and so you're out of luck. You won't be able to extend your time or change your status. So
Yes.
just avoid, especially in time critical pieces like those
Yes.
situations.
Absolutely. So, folks, don't wait up till the last moment. At least have a little buffer time for yourself. Play safe, I would say. And yes, we should take up more questions from our audience as well. So, let's take up ZQ's. All right. How does the recent comments by President Trump about DEI individuals work in core areas of administration and in transportation, like the FAA, affect the professional scenario? Will it hamper workplaces like air travel, hospitals, medicals, etc., where people's lives are at stake? And are they in the correct mindset? Are they worthy to be hired? JD Vance called it a joke. Says,
Hmm.
any
I mean,
comments?
I think it's more benefit. I have a very personal opinion that there's an extremely qualified. So what we're really talking about is moving from social promotion to merit based decision making in these jobs. If we do that, I see nothing but benefit for the Indian population because, as far as merit based goes, the level of education, the level of professional accomplishment and capability are going to put people in that category, the merit based approach to filling these jobs, in a much better well positioned than if we're looking at we need X of this type of person, Y of this type of person, Z of this type of person. Um, uh, I think that works to the detriment of of a people group like from India or even China or wherever that have extremely qualified people and will come in stronger on a merit based. I think they have a better shot at it outside of the DEI context. That's personal opinion. So.
Well, and then let's not forget the current employment based process. It is currently merit based. It's so I don't necessarily know. I appreciate the question and I appreciate the viewpoint, but I don't necessarily see how the two, the DEI conversation affects what's currently in place or with regard to employment based visas, right? It is we're trying to draw top talent, and for the EB3 PERM, we're dealing with labor shortages, right? So we need people that can do those jobs. I don't necessarily think that the DEI conversation, as controversial as it may be, has a direct influence on employment based visas.
Yeah, I
Right.
almost see that.
And you very sorry, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, Rob, please go ahead, please. I'm sorry.
More as a domestic uh, conversation of people that are already here, people that are already here within the U.S. filling specific people categories, and I even hate to even say that,
Mhm.
into a certain percentage of each job. I don't see that as applying in the international immigration and visa, especially in employment context, like Philip just said. I mean, it's just kind of it's not a fit.
Right, right. But with that said, it's still merit based, and I think this is a little positive thing that it is creating, the spirit of competition, you can say, to be best at what they do, so that they could go to America and live their dream, right? So, and I mean, so also for the Americans out there who would want to prove that they are better. So, I think the spirit of competitiveness is a little healthy, so to say. All right. So great point of views, and thank you, ZQ, for your question. Please keep commenting. It's very interesting. All right. So let's go on to our next question. What are the current best practices for L1A visa holders? Who are aiming to transition to permanent residency, considering the prevailing immigration landscape. Maybe Rob can take this.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we've said a couple times now, I think the best play is if you already are in the L1A category, the best move is the EB1C. It's almost, entirely congruous with the L1A. It's an easy slide right in there. And you have the premium processing available, and you have a 3-year wait versus these 12 and 13-year waits on visa availability under the visa bulletin. So, you stay in your L1A status for 3 years while you're waiting for the EB1C process to complete, and then you are good to go. Then we get your I-485 filed once your priority date is current, and you're in your period of authorized stay, and we are we're golden, as they say.
All right. So my next question is for you, Philip. If you can tell us, in January, of course, 2025, this year, President Trump issued several executive orders affecting immigration, including enhanced vetting procedures and changes to birthright citizenship, which is, still yet to be confirmed, by the way. So how might these orders influence the EB3 PERM process and the L1A visa applications?
The theme of the day: higher scrutiny, more scrutiny, and I think more extensive documentation requirements. Just to put a nice bow on it. That's what we can expect to see, and we don't know what's coming either. We don't know what other tightening there may be on employment-based visas. We don't know if there's going to be loosening on employment-based visas. But as far as the executive orders taken in isolation, their effect on EB3 and PERM, I would say more scrutiny.
And if I can just add in, because I used to work for the Great Oz and I've seen behind the curtain, I think what you're going to see is a lot more administrative processing for specific countries, right? So what they're worried about basically is somebody maybe coming under a ruse of a employment-based visa for intelligence gathering purposes. So if you have some of our major, we have diplomatic ties, but I wouldn't exactly call us the best of friends with China, for example. You're going to probably see a lot longer vetting periods, which just means in the front facing to the layperson, the administrative processing cycle. And what they're doing is they're running extensive databases through all of the agencies you can imagine, and all law enforcement, and through Interpol, and any background information that they have, even on open source, to determine whether this person is indeed a security risk. And I think you're going to see those admin processing times much longer, let's say, for maybe potentially a Chinese applicant than you would for India. Definitely for Iran. A lot of Middle Eastern people we see get caught up in a very lengthy administrative processing process. Was it the 213G?
Mm-hmm. I think that, yeah.
Yeah. So, as far as the heightened scrutiny or security by Trump as declared as part of his policy, that's going to translate into perhaps lengthier admin processing, which was really what they're doing is vetting any applicants or
Right.
petitioners.
Right, Rob. Very well put. And I think I will say to do your research properly and see what you need to do. Make sure your documents are right, and you will have to be patient for sure. Not giving up, even though how intense this vetting process might get. So I would say all the best to all you folks out there. And Rob and Philip, we have a few more questions, but we will address them. We also have some questions in our Facebook group. So, Control has put it up.
Okay.
And if you don't mind, just let's address them quickly. Let's take this first one. Philip, if you can go with this. How long does it take for a green card and EB3 skilled?
Well, what we've seen in the past, I mean, of course, that depends on a variety of factors. But what we've seen in the past, I think we've seen probably about was it 2 years?
2.5 right now, 2 to 2.5 years. But remember, the first year of that is the Department of labor certification process. Once you get past that and you have your labor cert, you can file the petition and you can utilize premium processing to get an answer very quickly. Then, as far as then you can adjust status or file your I-45 to adjust status. And you're probably looking at, we'd have to pull up their processing times, but you're probably looking at another year or two, maybe a little more over a year and a half at most, to receive the green card once you get to that point. The thing about their processing times, their published processing times, some are pretty scary, and they're scarier. But we haven't seen a correlation to reality in a lot of the categories that we file. In fact, we've seen a great discrepancy in what they're publishing, being, for instance, 50 months on one specific category, but yet we're getting the green cards in less than a year. So I'm not quite sure where the disconnect is at USCIS, or if they're just trying to CYA, by publishing these lengthy times. But I would say once for the entire EB3 PERM process, again, this is not accounting for retrogression. It's about a 2 to 2.5 year process.
Okay. Thank you for taking that up. Control, if you can display the next question, please. So, how long it will take for EB3 skilled PD March 2024?
Priority date 2024. 12 years. 12 years to adjust status.
Whoa, that
Yeah.
is insane.
Yeah, and 11,
I think you will just have
11
to look
years.
out for another option if you want to get into America quickly.
Yeah, it's a long time. Very
A
long
dozen
time.
years. And that's
Yeah.
just for the first process. It could be longer, right, Rob?
Yeah, the problem is then, so you got to tack on some time if you're going to consular process. NVC probably take a month to 2 months, you think, Philip, to get documentarily qualified. Then it's up to post, and this can be crazy because depending on post's performance, quite frankly, in relation to the workload, the demand they have their own little retrogression. For instance, when I arrived at one post, there were 5,000 visas in the hole to NVC, as far as scheduling appointments. So we strategized, we got that corrected, and actually we got up 2,500. So we had 2,500 visa interview, more capacity than NVC could supply for us. That's very unusual. Usually, Post is way behind on being able to schedule an interview, if you're going to go that route. And you could be looking at, we have one particular case, they've been documentarily qualified, waiting for an interview for a year and 4 months now, or a year and 5 months. It's awful. So if there's ever a way to adjust status, it's really the preferred route from within the U.S. Over consular processing, but it's just not always available to everybody in every circumstance.
Well, thank you for taking that up. It's crazy though. Let's go to the next question. This is from an anonymous participant. I have already done the EB3 probably visa. So if I process the F1 visa now, my EB3 visa will be held. In the futures, in the future, issues may or may not occur. Okay. He's asking maybe if there will be any issues in the future.
Problem with that.
Well, yeah, you know, we don't. As far as particular specified information, we obviously cannot give specific response or specific advice. As you know, there's no attorney-client relationship created here. But I think Rob just brought up a good point, and that might possibly be an intent issue.
Mm-hmm. There might be under circumstances where you have a pending immigrant visa petition. If you're seeking any other non-immigrant visa category that prohibits dual intention, they're not going to issue you that non-immigrant visa because they already see you have immigrant intent. So your knees will be knocked out from underneath you right away. So that's really not a strategy that we use for our clients because we know how it's going to end up at the end of the day.
Right, right. So, folks, I would suggest you write to Rob or Philip. You can do so by emailing them because every case is different and they would need proper details to really get to be able to help you. So, why not email Rob? And you can email Rob at robmelvin@melvinlawgroup.com. It's there on the screen. You can note down the email address. And for Philip, if you want to email Philip, you can email him at philip@dosrodlaw.com. And you can also call on this number, 979 and definitely go visit www.dosrodlaw.com to get to know more about Philip, for sure. And yes, let's come back and take up another question. This is another anonymous participant. If a visitor visa is refused, can one apply for an EB3 visa? How would there be any difficulty? Also, if a child is 19 years old at the time of application and the EB3 process takes 3 to 4 years to complete, would the child also receive a visa since they were under 21 at the time of application? Please provide guidance.
There's a lot of moving parts to that question. What we can tell you, and Rob has firsthand experience of this being a vice consul, is whenever there is a visa denial, everything after that is reviewed with a little closer eye, and depending on the basis for the denial or the refusal, it could have an effect on a future employment-based visa. I don't. You want to add anything to that, or?
No, other than like the denial of a B1, B2 is in very informal terms a nothing burger because they're so easy to deny. You actually begin in the B1, B2 category with the presumption that you will be denied. You then have to overcome that presumption with the vice consul to show them that you have sufficient ties to your home country, that they are reassured sufficiently that you will return to your home country at the end of your allowed stay in the United States. So the fact that you were denied, and I'm not giving you legal advice specifically on this case, but the fact that somebody was denied a B1, B2 in their past, really in the immigrant visa context will have little to no implications unless there were some misrepresentations, anything that could give you what we call a hard hit and what those are ineligibilities that are entered into your record. And ineligibilities or inadmissibilities in the context of the application for the non-immigrant visa and that whole process.
Yes. And once again, I would say please save everyone, avoid any sort of misrepresentation. Whenever you have the chance to give them the info which you couldn't provide earlier, you might as well do it when you get a chance. All right. So I think with that, we should wrap up the questions from our audience. But this question goes out to both of you, Rob and Philip. If you have any interesting case that has come up that you are dealing with right now, with reference to EB3 or L1A, especially after Trump has joined office, and you would like to share, you know, any note, it'll be really interesting to get to know.
Yeah, I mean, the most interesting note is not even a case from India. It's from another case that's not retrogress,
Okay.
and it's been going for what? Working on 2 years now. Actually, and we're still don't even have the labor certification yet. So it was shocking to me personally to see in that case, you got the prevailing wage determination, took much longer than I thought, okay, and much longer than they were publishing at the time. It took 9 months. So that was good compared to today. And then we did the reasonable recruitment process. So that was another 6 weeks to 2 months. So now it's in the labor certification phase, and I check it, a couple times a month, and it's still just pending. So it makes you crazy because it's like this whole other hurdle you got to get to before you ever get to the starting line. The Department of Labor is really a challenge in this particular visa category. Anytime you need a labor certification, not talking about the LCAs for for H2Bs or anything like that, but a labor cert for the EB2 or EB3 PERM. Department of Labor is just a mess right now, in my opinion. I'm sure they love hearing that from me, but
Well,
I challenge somebody to explain to me how they're not a mess.
yes, I really hope this just gets untangled as soon as possible. And Philip, any last notes, maybe, to folks out there who are watching us right now? Anything you want to say?
Well, sure. I just want to reiterate that I know it sounds like there's a lot of doom and gloom, but if your goal is to come to the U.S. and whether it's the professional route or any other route, speak with a knowledgeable immigration attorney who can do a holistic analysis of your situation, can look for any type of visas you may be eligible for or any type of immigration relief that you may be eligible for. Just go to a trusted immigration attorney that can figure your situation out and give you at least 3. What we like to do is give 2 to 3 viable immigration options, and then ultimately it's on the applicant, it's on the viewers for them to make their decision. But again, I know there's bad news in the EB3 PERM category for Indian applicants from India, but it's not all doom and gloom.
Okay. At least that's a good, positive point to end today. So I would say thank you to both of you, Rob and Philip, for joining us. It was such an insightful session, really, and we learned so much about the current situation, what's going on. But always great, to consult with an expert, an immigration attorney, and they should definitely be Rob and Melvin. So go check them out, and their contact details are as follows. So this is for Philip. This is you can call him up on his number 979-776-1325, and you can email Philip, Philip at dosrodlaw.com, and go visit www.dosrodlaw.com to get to know more about Philip. And you can also call and contact Rob And you can email Rob at robmelvin@melvinlawgroup.com. And you can even call Rob in his number control, if you can please display. Rob's number is 512-293-3023. And once again, his email address is robmelvin@melvinlawgroup.com. And go visit www.melvinlawgroup.com to get to know more about Rob Melvin. So both of you, thank you so much for joining us once again. And I'm really looking forward for more great sessions with you.
Sure. Well, thank you very much. Quick note on those contact numbers for both Rob and I. They are available on WhatsApp for a lot of our international clients that use that channel, communication channel. So again, thanks for having us. We're happy to answer any questions that your viewers may have, and you've put up our contact information. They can all feel free to send us an email, give us a call, or shoot us a text on WhatsApp.
And it's Philip with one L, not two. PHIL.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. No, thank you, Pasa, for having us. It's always a pleasure. I know it's not, the news people want, but we shoot straight and we're transparent. So
Yes.
we're just going to tell you the how it really is on the ground, and we're going to tell you what the best alternate options are for everybody. So we're always willing to share the information that we have, that we're privy to.
Thank you, Rob. And really, thank you for joining us, both of you, today. So, folks out there, Rob and Philip, for you, do go and contact them and maybe have a one on one discussion. You can even let them know that you saw them here on Immigration Talk Show. They would be really happy to help you. And have a great day, both of you. And also to all you folks out there, thank you so much for joining us. You can also contact me. In fact, my number is 408-335-6444, and my email address is nipa@staffingly.com. You can even WhatsApp me in this number. And if you have any questions for Rob and Philip, I could even direct those messages to them directly. So thank you once again, everyone, for joining us. Have a great day ahead and a splendid week ahead. Bye-bye.
Take care. Thank you for.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.